Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So today is Saturday. So yesterday was Star-Lord. Okay, so the thing that annoys me is that, the movies changed his origin. He is not the son of Ego, the living planet. Um, okay, I just have to keep reminding myself, okay, the MCU and comic books are separate entities, but it still bothers me a little bit. Like I can't help it. I mean, if imagine if Star Lord is your favorite character and you see that they've changed him. Uh, just like with Rogue and in the Fox movies, they didn't. She didn't have Ms. Marvel's powers. She hadn't absorbed them, so that really bothered me. And I realized that would have been complicated because, of course, Fox didn't have the rights to Miss Marvel, and so they couldn't, go through. And plus, that'd be a huge whole buildup, which is why I think they like simplified her origin and her powers. And I feel like that's what they did with Star Lord, even though they had the rights to, all of his story. But I feel like they simplified it just a little bit so that it could work for the movie. So he is actually the son of Meredith Quill and Jason, who is the leader, the ruler of Spartax. Um, Jason actually crash landed in Colorado, his ship, and he formed this bond, fell in love with Meredith while he was repairing his ship. He left, before he even knew that she was pregnant with Peter to fight a war, and so he never really knew about his son, at the time. And then when Peter was 10, his mom was killed when the Badoon, two Badoon soldiers came and tried to kill him in order to end his father's line, his father's lineage. Um, so unfortunately, his mom was killed. He wasn't able to save his mom, but Peter actually managed with a shotgun to kill those two soldiers. So he basically was an orphan. His best friend's mom, who worked for NASA, actually, looked in on him and stuff and kept track of him. But, he grew up in an orphanage. But when he grew up, he decided to go into, the space program, NASA. So on his, very first, well, one of his first missions, his ship malfunctioned, so he's stranded in space. So he was found by the Ravagers. They didn't kidnap him when he was a little boy, though. They found him, and rather than killing him, Peter convinced them that they should let him live. Dazzler, let him live, and he became like their cleaning boy of the ship. So, and then he managed to escape from them, and he formed the Guardians of the Galaxy to hopefully interplanetary conflict before it happened, and to protect Earth, where he's from. And unfortunately, his father, who probably portrayed himself to be a really good guy to the mom, his mother, is not a good guy. He's a tyrant. He rules, Spartax, with an iron fist. He is not a good guy. So Peter has exposed that multiple times, and so his own father has, tried to kill him numerous times, put a bounty on his head, all kinds of crazy things. um, so speaking of crazy, it was crazy when Peter, met Kitty from the X-Men, and they fell in love, and they got engaged, and unfortunately the engagement was broken off. But she definitely has a thing for Peters, Peter Asputin, Pete Wisdom, Peter Quill, So I mean, I mean, even though I loved, Colossus and Kitty together, I kind of liked her pairing with Star Lord. I thought that was interesting. It was fun. It was different. And then, of course, when she, broke Colossus's heart and left him at the altar, I was kind of like, well, yeah, she's definitely done with Colossus. So I'd be okay if, she got back together with Peter, or, if that progressed. But, relationships and superhero comics don't usually last very long. I've already talked about the ones that do. So anyway, he actually did become the ruler of Spartax. Peter did, but the council basically shamed him into leaving because they deemed him responsible for the almost mass destruction of the planet. Even though, it wasn't really Peter's fault, but, he did feel bad, so he did leave. Um, so, yeah, when he was on Spartax being the ruler, Rocket was in charge of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But, yeah, look, there she is. There's Dazzler. She's like, well, you can see her. She's just off to the side a little bit. Doesn't want to be in front of the camera today. Anyway, so, yeah. Ego, he is, the living planet. He feeds off of, I guess she's done. She made her, swoop appearance, and now you can see she jumped in the window. So Ego, the living planet, he kind of is like Galactus, and they come into conflict with each other a lot because he feeds off of other planets. He feeds off of planets, ships, civilizations, people, and that's how he, gets his fuel. So they've come into conflict a lot. So anyway, I probably went way too long on Star-Lord. It just, bothers me a little bit when the movies change the comic books, but like I said, I get it. They're trying to make it simplified in order for people to understand, and it would be harder to tell that story, I think, because of all the other elements that are involved. So for Saturday and Sunday, it's this image of Ant-Man, and these little kids, are using magnifying glasses to heat the ants and burn them. And this kind of makes me think, the ant being so huge, makes me think of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, when they're in the backyard and the ants. And yeah, that's what it makes me think of. And Ant-Man, he is, so far in his power, his stats, he has the highest intelligence at 7. I mean, all of his other stats, strength 2, speed 2, durability 2, energy 5, skills 3, are not the greatest, but he's definitely one of the smartest people, in Marvel, for sure. If not the smartest. I mean, there's been a lot of debate about who actually is the smartest, and I don't know the answer to that, honestly. I mean, what do you guys think? Who do you think is the smartest? I mean, of course, Ant-Man, Hank Pym, Reed. People have even thrown Dr. Doom up there. Black Panther's T'Challa is pretty smart, but I don't think he's on that level. Beast, he's pretty smart. Don't think he's on that level. So anyway, so that's for that. And then for this, we have Enchantress. So, I always liked having, when there's female villains, because I feel like there's not enough of those. Obviously. But they have, I don't want them to just be a female villain just to be a female villain, though. I want them to be, a good female villain. So she appeared, Enchantress appeared I'd say about 20 issues after Thor was first introduced. And she was tasked by Odin to, basically, cause chaos. So this stamp is from Captain America 172, April 74. Also appeared in Jungle Action number 11, September 74, and Marvel Team Up number 28, December 74. And this is from the Avengers 7, August of 64. Art by Jack Kirby and Chick Stone. So you can see her down there, along with some other villains. Scourge, the Executioner, and Baron Zemo. And they really, they, obviously changed it a little bit, highlighted her a little bit more, added some special effects to her. So she actually studied magic when she, started studying magic when she was pretty young, but then she was banished. But She continued to study magic on her own, and mostly she did that by seducing people that had magic and learning all their secrets. That's kind of her MO. Her go-to is like seduction and mind control. Those are the two things that she, I will say, does the best, in a, so to speak. She has a sister named Lorelai, and Lorelai was actually in Agents of Shield, the first season, I think, and that's when Sith from the MCU Marvel movies made an appearance too. And Lorelai is pretty similar to her sister, um, Amora, in that they both kind of have the same powers, kind of had the same goal. It was to seduce Thor. I mean, of course, Enchantress and Thor have, been lovers before, so I feel like Amara won that bet. But Lorelai, being the younger sister, has always kind of resented her older sister. So, yeah. Where was I? Like, oh yeah. I was like, where was I going with this? All right. So there was another Enchantress introduced in 2009, Sylvie. That name might sound familiar because of the Loki MCU television series that Disney Plus did. Sylvie actually was created by Loki in order to, cause chaos, but she ended up being a member of the Young Avengers, and even though she has, similar power set to the real Enchantress, and then later we saw her as a member of the Illuminati, but the Enchantress she's pretty petty. So she came along and confronted the Sylvie Enchantress and banished her to like this horrific dimension. And Enchantress, of course, was the first villain that Dazzler fought in her short-lived. Well, actually, I wouldn't say short. 42 issues, pretty respectable, especially for a female character, especially in the very early 80s. So, that's a pretty respectable run. So she was the first villain she fought in her series, and she actually beat out the Enchantress in a singing contest to win the gig at the nightclub. Because I'll put the link in this video description so you can see why they were facing each other. But I've said this before and I'll say this again, I think that would have been a great idea for them to bring back the Enchantress as a villain in Dazzler's 4-part miniseries that they did, because like I said, Enchantress is very petty. So I could see her holding a grudge for a really long time. And I think that would have just, because in the series, someone's targeting her tour. And so since Dazzler beat her on singing, beat her for her singing voice, I could see Enchantress wanting to destroy her career. I think that would have been a much better ending than what they gave us. So, I'll put those. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll put the first one in the description, the first of the Dazzler miniseries, and then if you want to read or view the other ones, they're pretty easily accessible. But I mean, Enchantress isn't in there, but I feel like she should have been. I feel like she should have been the main villain in the end instead of, I won't spoil it, instead of who they picked. Because I was like, really? Okay. I mean, I kind of didn't see that coming, but at the same time, I was like, oh, like disappointed, Anyway, so I think Enchantress is a cool villain. Like I said, I like the idea of female villains, but I want them to actually not just be like, oh, here's the female version of, like, speaking of female version, there was like the female version of the Scorpion from Spider-Man in the Dazzler series, and I'm like, oh, okay. See, I feel like they need to have their own, their own compelling like backstory and power set and everything in order to be like a compelling villain, not just, oh, this is a good female villain. because I feel like X-Men does a pretty good job of that. Like Mystique, Lady Deathstrike, those are two female villains that have a really good backstory. And when you think villains, you think those two. You don't think necessarily, oh, female villains, those two. So anyway, I don't know. That's just my take on it. So anyway, I hope you will join me and watch more of my videos. And hopefully Dazzler will join us more for the next video. I mean, she's in the window. She must see something. So I guess I'll sign off and I will go see what she's looking at. So until next time, bye.